Hi everyone, this is Axel from BikingMan.com. Today for the Bikepacking Academy, I want to talk about preparation. How to get prepared for a biking man and an ultra bikepacking event. An ultra event means covering a very long distance comparing to most cycling events that most people know about. So we are talking between 800 to 1,600 kilometers for biking man races. For most people it's like, what? Are you serious? I mean, it's a huge distance. So most people are scared about these big distances because they are thinking about these distances with what they know about cycling events. Group riding, hard pace, all this kind of stuff. For biking man event though, it's very similar to running a marathon or attempting and finishing an Ironman triathlon. It's a solo effort and you never try and attempt to cover the distance of the actual event before it happens. So you don't run a marathon before actually running your first marathon, and you never do an Ironman distance triathlon before covering an Ironman distance triathlon. The same rule applies for a biking man event. Don't try to do the distance and be scared as well by the objective. That's the major thing to keep in mind. The second advice before we actually go through a potential preparation program is that you get to picture a biking man event as a big elephant that you're trying to eat. That's your target, that's your objective. 90% of the people that are doing a biking man have never completed a biking man event in the past, nor an ultra distance cycling event. So they're first timers, maybe like you. Once you picture that elephant, you will try to chop it in pieces, and these pieces will be part of your preparation. And this is how I want to explain how to get prepared for an ultra distance cycling event. What does it mean being fit enough to ride a biking man race? Well, it's thinking about several elements that are very important to know before attempting it. The position you will have on the bike is very important. Why? When you ride short distances on the bike, let's say between 4 to 8 hours, all the pain that you might have related potentially to sore legs or most likely to a bad positioning, which could link to an injury in the midterm, on a long distance event, this pain can be unbearable. So getting the right bike position will help you to make the difference between pain and the start of an injury. So please do check the tutorial that we've shared already on bike fit and bike positioning. One example, the first time I went on a bike ride, and I'm serious, I rode 1,200 kilometers across the Balkans with a 50 kilos bike. At that time I didn't know anything about bike positioning, saddle type, cleat positions and everything. I went there and I managed to finish the ride in less than 10 days with a 50 kilo loaded bike. Trust me, it was very hard. But the thing that I've learned as well is that I had unbearable pain in one of my knees. And I figured out by searching, by making mistakes, where that pain was coming from. And it was linked to a bad position on the bike, saddle and cleat. Once I fixed that knee pain, I could actually start enjoying the ride. What does it mean? It means that when you ride a bicycle and you might be using a heart rate monitor, or even better, a power meter, you will go on different intensity workout. On a biking man event and on ultra distance cycling events, it's very important to understand these zones and exactly how do you ride your bike and what are your own zones. Have you ever heard about a functional threshold power output? That's the maximum power you can reach on a bike on a 1 hour time period. It defines where above that level you will blow up eventually and you will be so tired and so sore that you will have to stop riding a bicycle. Based on that, if you don't know that value, whether you're using a heart rate monitor or a power meter, it's very hard for you to train in the right zones. You need to forget everything you know about group riding, Grand Fondo, where you're riding as a group, riding as fast as possible towards a very short objective, which would be between 100 to 180 kilometers maximum. An ultra-distance cycling event is done in the two main zones. zone 1 and zone 2. Because in these two zones, you can ride almost forever a bicycle. The remaining 3 means that you're digging a hole into your nerve system and the body will have to stop to recover from sore legs, lactic acid that you produce and everything. Understanding these zones will help you to ride far. Because to ride far, you need to ride slower. It's like running. You don't run a marathon at the same pace as a 10K race. It's very good to do short training sessions up to 1.5 hours and 2 hours to try to work on cadence, power, velocity and sprints, for instance, because it will help you to move your functional threshold to the max and avoid damaging or tiring too much your body and reach that peak form that you're searching for. And apart from these very specific trainings, you need as well to train your body to endure long distance riding. So more than 4, 5, 6 hours training rides where you understand exactly what are the pain related to this kind of riding. And in the right zone as well to avoid burning your matches. Most of the time, doing specific training at your own pace is more beneficial than a group ride where everybody is doing nothing apart from racing. I believe that anywhere between 8 to 20 hours are sufficient to do a BikingMan event. 8 hours is the minimum per week that you need to pile on and build up to make sure that you're trained enough and avoid the traps of first-timers. Up to 20 hours is when you are attempting to take the event seriously and reach for maybe a ranking or maybe win it. Below 8 hours, that might be very hard for you, but we've seen people successful training less than that. So it's really an advice, but it's not a rule. Above the training volume and the number of hours you can spend on the bike, what really matters is being consistent in training. Don't ever miss 1 week of training, because 1 week of training off can mean up to 2 weeks lost on your training plan. Being consistent is the key. Don't do the same ride over and over and over again. Think about that elephant. Remember it. Try to go and aim for a specific target that you will meet during the event that you're planning to do. Let's say you have a target event where you're planning to ride, I don't know, maybe 4,000, 5,000, 6,000 meters of elevation gain in one day. Well, plan this ride into your training. Let's say you will have terrible weather conditions. Then try to train as well under rain and the hail with heavy traffic, because all these conditions will be present or can be present in a BikingMan event. So try to face these conditions and divide your event in small bites and eat every bite before the event. Elevation gain, type of conditions. You can even train without water for up to 4 hours. That's what I'm doing. I'm training sometimes on 3-4 hours without taking any water bottle or without eating to understand exactly what is the feeling of being thirsty and dehydrated and knowing how to manage this. All these small bites are physical challenges that you will have to face on a BikingMan event. If you unlock as many of these locks as possible before the race, then you will build up that confidence that will help you to reach the finish line. On very short distance ride, 4 to 8 hours, it's very easy to know exactly what kind of food and how much water you need to drink. But once you're going on a very long distance event, the game is changing. Your body will react differently, your stomach will behave differently, or your body will be tired and blinking red. Let's take an example. 3 years ago, I was doing and attempting an Everesting with 4 friends. One of them was very experienced and he was fueling himself only with liquid fueling. On the other hand, I was taking solid food like pasta, rice, and he was looking at me saying, "Why are you taking that much food?" And we had 8,800 meters of climbing to do on La Madone du Tel climb. During the night, after more than 12 hours of climbing, this guy was starting throwing up seriously and having problems because his stomach was actually refusing all the liquid fuel that he took. This is an example that might happen during a BikingMan event. Make sure to test what works for you on long distance, because some food that works on short rides might not work on very long ones. And you need to train your stomach as well and your body to make sure that you have the right food and that you know exactly how much you need to fuel yourself. We are talking about 70% mental, 30% physical. And the more experience that I'm building in this discipline, it's getting closer from 90% mental and 10% physical, seriously. So mental preparation is key. Read stories, search for blogs, watch movies, read books. Lots of people, women and men, have been riding around the world in the toughest conditions and racing as well the most beautiful events. Try to search these stories because they will help you to build confidence that there are other people than you that have already been achieving these kind of feats. And it's really helpful to find out that beautiful community that already exists in ultra cycling and ultra bikepacking. Make sure that you involve your relatives, your boyfriend, your girlfriend, your family, because there might be people supporting you before, during and after the event. They might send you a specific playlist for your event so that you don't get bored or you get that extra motivation. They might cheer you up once the event is completed. They might be among the volunteers of the event. So make sure to involve them since the beginning, because that's a huge commitment to train for these races, and it's very important to bring the relatives on board. This is most likely one of the most important pieces of advice. The more ready you are to face the unpredictable, the more ready and strong you are for an ultra cycling event. Because all these small bites and piece of advice that I'm sharing with you are small stress and small pain in the brain that can build up together and reach a threshold where you would scratch and say, it's too much, I'm off. So if you try to face these unpredictable things, you will get better at ultra distance cycling, for sure. Which means as well, don't overplan it, because things will go wrong. You will have unpredictable things happening, and you got to get ready for that. The more you can manage the unpredictable, the stronger you will get at managing stressful situations. Ultra distance is painful. You will face this roller coaster of emotion. Pain is part of the game, and the more you can suffer, the stronger you can be in these kind of events. Which means try to think about the motivations, good and bad, that will help you during the event to sip and to dig into these experiences to help you keep pushing further. These are your trump cards, and you might have to call them at a specific time of the event, and trust me, it will be very helpful to keep you riding forward. It's very, very important that you test and know how works your equipment way before the event. One example, I rode the entire length of South America in 50 days. At that time it was the world record. I started off in Colombia with new shoes. I bought new shoes because they were fancy, I liked the color, and I wanted fancy shoes to ride this entire continent. Big mistake, big time. The cleats were badly positioned and I suffered from a massive knee pain for the first 5 days until I understood how to move these cleats and correct it. I might have failed this attempt if I didn't know how to change my cleats. So make sure to control all this equipment, your saddle, your cleats, bike position again. Know exactly how your equipment is working. That implies as well to understand how to change a tube. How does tubeless work? What happens if I'm running tubeless and that I need to change my tubeless back to a tube? What happens if my chain breaks? All these basic mechanical stuff can be learned from your bike shop and your favorite guy you know there. That might be the right time to understand exactly how works your bike, because you don't want to be stuck with a tube that you can't repair in the desert of Oman. Get familiar as well with the mandatory kit that we've shared in another video. Every BikingMan has a mandatory kit, and we haven't put this kit together to add weight to your saddlebags or your front panniers. We've put this list together to make sure that you're riding safe on very long distance. But you need to understand exactly what are these items and how do they work, because during the race, it will help you. I've seen people with 35 years of riding experience that didn't know what was a survival blanket. And they understood the purpose of the survival blanket the hard way in a race. That's the end of this tutorial. Remember, physical preparation, mental preparation, and equipment. If you carefully check these 3 elements based on the knowledge that I've shared with you, you will be fine and you will do perfectly on a BikingMan event. Remember, an ultra-distance event is your race before being a race against each other's. You will be racing yourself and yourself first. And that's a big difference from any other type of events you might have known in the past. I really hope that this tutorial will help you to get prepared for a BikingMan event or another ultra-distance event. Feel free to send your comments below because that really helps us to build more tutorials that are helping you to get prepared and hopefully see you on the road.